Let's talk about Create a Wrestler in wrestling video games. This is the O Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, CW. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. Make sure to hit that bell on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast on any and all podcasting platforms. What is your favorite Create a Wrestler? Right off the bat, hit the comments. Let me know which wrestling video game has given you the best Create a Wrestler experience and the best interface, or just the best output, like your favorite created wrestler ever. Let me know in the comments. With the launch of WWE 2K23 in March, I wanted to do a series of episodes on some of the best and worst parts of wrestling video games from my extensively limited experience with all of them. I've been buying wrestling video games since, WWE Warzone, or WWF Warzone, I should say. And over the past, 20, 25 years, whatever the immense number is, I've experienced quite a few creator wrestlers. I'm one of those guys who would create, or at least in the beginning, I would create the biggest, baddest, weirdest dude. I believe one of my favorite characters I ever created, I don't remember the dude's name, but I made him as tall as possible. I made him as heavy as possible. He was wearing some sort of like medieval knight armor or something like that. And I gave him all the strongest moves in the game. And that was in direct contrast to every like legend wrestler that Ad Dad's First Time, shout out Ad Dad's First Time on Twitch, would bring to the table. So he would, bring his memory card over, and we would check out each other's wrestlers, and his like Macho Man would come out, and he'd be so proud of the Macho Man or the Hulk Hogan or something that he created. And then here comes my like creepy, hell beast that made no sense, was way too powerful, and I was so proud. I mean, his body was enormous. And I remember having crazy conversations about character creators, and one of them was, every time I would create a person, I was told like, this doesn't look like an actual human being. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, his chest is too big, his chest is too wide, the arms are too thick. And I'm like, I don't see that. They look fine to me. And I think looking back, they did look ridiculous. But in my head, professional wrestlers were superheroes and larger than life figures and legitimate giants, just big people. So when I was using these character creators, I would create these larger than life characters that just, in my head, they were kind of like a mashup of the professional wrestler and then also like a DC Comics superhero. So yes, at Dad's First Time, you're right. None of the people I created looked real. But that is the power of a Create a Wrestler engine or a call. You can make whatever you want. One of the most fantastic aspects of a Create a Wrestler is the creativity it spawns. The mechanics are usually the same, but there are always limitations, obviously, whether it be the system or the actual, the console, or the actual like system in place, the UI or whatever, or the options. And seeing the type of things that people create, despite that, is amazing. The way people will layer different shapes to get, like the Ultimate Warrior's face on some trunks. It's really impressive, the lengths people will go to create their favorite wrestler. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that these Create a Wrestler engines are some of the best uses of creativity in video games. Like, if you go online and look at any like old forum, like a games game FAQs, I can't remember the name of the site, but they have forums where people just post their Create a Wrestler. If you look through the Create a Wrestler kind of library for downloading different wrestlers in the game, the breadth and width of creativity is crazy. You can basically have anybody you want. If there's a wrestler in like NWA or AEW or New Japan or I think it's DSW, I don't remember the name of it. But if there's a wrestler you like that is not part of WWE, chances are they have been created in the Create a Wrestler, and very well. Relatively recently, the 2K games allow you to kind of scan faces, I believe. So you can scan in a face of a wrestler you like and then build their gear and their moveset. The 2K22 engine allowed you to create Cody Rhodes, and I've seen some of the Cody Rhodes that people have made, and while it's not obviously a one-to-one recreation of the guy, they're really well done, down to the tattoo on the dude's neck. It's amazing. And it's funny, he did an interview with Austin Creed on Up Up Down Down talking about what it's like to now be back in the game versus seeing himself in the game like previous games where he wasn't part of the company. He's like, you see yourself and someone made you, and you see that that's supposed to be you, but it's not you. And then he's like, versus getting your face scanned in and actually being in the game, like it's a drastic difference. But I will say that I don't think that's true. I think some of the created wrestlers on the fan side are better looking than some of the actual generated 2K wrestlers in the game. Dad's First Time was a prolific character creator. He spent hours on minute details to create, a Macho Man that looked better than the Macho Man that was in the game, or a series of Undertakers with gear that wasn't in the game or represented. You name a legend, he would recreate it for people, so much so that people would be asking him for different creations, and he would oblige, back when we had time and less kids to do this type of stuff. But if we're talking about the best creative wrestler / creative superstar in a wrestling game, I have to give kudos to Fire Pro Wrestling World. It's many people's favorite because they've created basically any professional wrestler you can think of in that engine. It's very robust. But in terms of like the WWE games, you'll always look to the most recent version of the game to have the strongest character creator. But one of my favorites is SmackDown versus Raw 2010. I believe that's when they started letting you add your own logos and create entrances and stuff like that, create storylines. So the surrounding stuff for the wrestler was what helped the creator wrestler. So you can create any wrestler you want in that engine. It was a fantastic engine, but then there were pieces on the outside, the peripheral, that were there to support that character creator, right? So you can create your favorite wrestler and then create their entrance and then, light it properly and then put that created wrestler in a storyline of your own choosing. Man, can we just talk about how the SmackDown versus Raw games were doing some great stuff back in the day? It was a great series of games that they really, I wouldn't say experimented, but perfected the SmackDown formula, right down to like having the GM mode, which just came back in 2K22 and is being retooled a little bit in 2K23. But the SmackDown versus Raw games really pushed the envelope right before 2K took over and turned it into like the hardcore sim that it is now. And of course, the 2K games minus 2K20 and that Battlegrounds offshoot, which were both not great, they do offer amazing options in their character creator. But there's just something about the Raw versus SmackDown games that was a little bit grittier, but also polished. And I could just be, have my nostalgia glasses on and, pining for the old days. But I like those games, their style and their sort of gameplay just a little bit more than the 2K games. But maybe 2K23 will bring me back into the fold. Anyway, what's your favorite character creator in a wrestling video game? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to hit the bell, subscribe on any and all podcasting platforms. Tell a friend or two about this wrestling podcast you love so much. Go about your day knowing full well that no matter what happens, I'm your friend.
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.